The morning after the storm felt unnaturally still. The kind of quiet that follows chaos, heavy, uneasy, almost expectant. Nora Hayes tightened her rain jacket and stepped out of her truck, boots sinking into the mud. She had been out since dawn, answering calls from locals who'd reported injured wildlife after the night's brutal windstorm. The one that had torn through the outskirts of Missoula, Montana. Fallen trees littered the ground, and the smell of wet pine and earth hung thick in the air. Her radio crackled to life. Unit 4, you might want to check the creek bend near Red Hollow. Neighbor reported hearing crying, might be a fox kid or something. Copy that, Nora replied, wiping rain from her face. She had worked in wildlife rescue for nearly a decade, but she still felt her heart tighten whenever someone said crying. Those sounds, weak, scared, helpless, never got easier. She jogged back to her truck, grabbed a small handsaw and an aluminum jack. When she returned, the kitten hadn't moved, just watched her, sides trembling with shallow breaths. Every few seconds, a soft mew broke through the sound of rushing water. "It's okay, sweetheart," Nora said gently. "You're not alone anymore." She slid the jack under one side of the trunk, the metal squealing faintly as she cranked. The wood groaned and mud trickled down. The kitten hissed weakly at the noise, flinching, but didn't try to run. It couldn't. When the trunk lifted a few inches, Nora shoved several rocks beneath it to hold it steady. Then, carefully, she reached under. The kitten's paw was twisted at an awkward angle, swollen and raw. The sight made her throat tighten. "You poor thing," she murmured, slipping her gloved hand under the leg, supporting it as she pulled the kitten free. The little body was limp with exhaustion, but still breathing. Nora wrapped it quickly in a clean towel, tucking it close to her chest for warmth. She could feel its faint heartbeat against her hand. "You're okay now." The moment the kitten felt her warmth, it gave a small, broken chirp, the same soft sound mother bobcats make to comfort their young. The noise cut straight through her. Nora swallowed hard. "I know, baby. I know." She scanned the tree line again, half expecting to see movement. Maybe the mother watching, waiting. But there was nothing except wind and mist. Only the faint marks in the mud told the story. The mother had fought to the end. When the rescue van arrived 20 minutes later, Nora was ready. The team from Montana Wildlife Haven, a small, dedicated rehab center she often worked with, rushed to assist. "Juvenile bobcat," Nora said as they gathered around. "Fractured leg, probable concussion, possible eye infection. Hypothermic." Dr. Elena Ruiz, the on-call vet, nodded briskly. "Let's move her." As they worked, Nora couldn't stop glancing down at the bundle of fur in her arms. Even half-conscious, the kitten was breathtaking, soft tawny coat mottled with faint rosettes. White chin trembling as she breathed. She looked like a ghost of her mother, fierce and fragile all at once. They secured the kitten in a portable oxygen crate and began the bumpy drive back toward the center. Nora sat in the back seat, towel still draped over her lap, one gloved hand resting gently against the crate's bars. The kitten stirred once, lifting her head just enough for their eyes to meet. Amber and green. Wild and human. In that single heartbeat, something unspoken passed between them, something ancient, wordless, and profound. At the rehabilitation center, chaos gave way to precision. Dr. Ruiz examined the kitten under bright surgical lights, murmuring observations. No spinal trauma. Leg fractures clean. Eyes inflamed but not ruptured. "She's lucky." "Lucky," Nora repeated softly. "Or someone up there was looking out for her." Dr. Ruiz smiled faintly. "Maybe both." They named her Willow, after the tree she'd been trapped beneath. Over the next few hours, Nora stayed by Willow's side as the team cleaned wounds, set the splint, and stabilized her body temperature. By sunset, the kitten was sleeping soundly under heat lamps. Wrapped in a tiny blanket. Nora watched through the glass. exhaustion finally setting in. She didn't know why this rescue had hit her harder than the others. Maybe it was the storm. Maybe it was the claw marks near the trunk, that final, hopeless struggle of a mother trying to save her child. Whatever it was, she knew one thing for sure. This little bobcat had already stolen a piece of her heart. Asterisk by the next morning, the storm had given way to sunlight, weak but golden, slanting through the rehab center's windows. Inside the quarantine ward, the world was still and quiet. Except for the rhythmic hum of the heating vents. Nora arrived early, carrying her second cup of coffee and that familiar tightness in her chest, the kind that came after a rescue that got under her skin. She moved straight to enclosure 3, where Willow lay curled in a padded crate. The kitten stirred at the sound of footsteps. Her good eye opened, blinking groggy. When she saw Nora crouching near the door, she didn't hiss or retreat, just tilted her head slightly. The faintest movement of recognition. "Well, hey there, little fighter," Nora whispered, crouching lower. "You made it through the night." Dr. Ruiz entered, flipping through a clipboard. "She's stable. Temperature normal. Hydration improved. She even took a few bites of chicken this morning." Nora smiled, watching the kitten's nose twitch as the vet spoke. "That's my girl." The vet looked up with an amused grin. "Careful, Hayes, you're getting attached." "Too late," Nora said softly. Over the following days, Willow began to regain her strength. The leg remained in a splint, but she could hobble short distances, her gait uneven but determined. The eye injury healed slowly. The swelling faded, though a faint cloudiness remained over the pupil. At first, Willow avoided everyone except Nora. Whenever other staff approached, she'd retreat to the corner, body tense, tail flicking. But when Nora entered, her ears would perk. Sometimes, she'd even emit a faint chirp, the same sound that had first broken Nora's heart by the creek. It became a ritual. Every evening, after her rounds, Nora would sit outside the enclosure, speaking in a low, even tone. She'd tell Willow about the rescue she'd done that day: an orphaned raccoon, a hawk tangled in fishing wire, as if the bobcat were listening, and maybe she was. Sometimes when Nora stopped talking, Willow would make a soft rumble in response. Not quite a growl, not quite a purr. A sound halfway between wildness and trust. One afternoon, Nora noticed something that made her breath hitch. The kitten had started gathering scraps of cloth from her bedding, arranging them into a tiny, uneven pile in the corner. "She's nesting," Dr. Ruiz explained. "It's instinct, comfort behavior. She feels safe." Safe, the word lingered. That night, Nora couldn't stop thinking about Willow. She sat on her porch under the pale Montana moon, the sound of crickets in the background, and thought about the mother who had fought so hard for her kitten's life. How many storms did she survive before that one? She murmured. And how much did it take to keep her baby alive that long? She didn't have an answer, but she knew this: Willow deserved the chance her mother never got. A week later, Willow took her first steps outside the medical ward. Nora had moved her to a larger outdoor enclosure, part of the center's rewilding area, where recovering animals learned to climb, hunt, and hide before released. The moment the door opened, the young bobcat hesitated, paws hovering just over the threshold. Then, in one graceful leap, she bounded into the sunlight. Nora laughed aloud, clapping her hands. "That's it, girl. Go see the world." Willow sniffed at the grass, tail twitching as her instincts came alive. She pounced clumsily on a leaf, missed, then tried again. A wild spirit reborn. It was in that moment Nora realized she'd never see animals the same way again. They weren't just patients or rescues. They were stories of courage, loss, and survival that deserved to be told. By late March, Willow was thriving. Her leg had healed, leaving only a faint limp, and her once clouded eye gleamed gold in the light. But wild hearts can't be kept. And Nora knew, as much as it hurt, that Willow's time with humans was coming to an end. She's ready. Dr. Ruiz confirmed one morning, reviewing the final health report. Fully capable of hunting. No human dependency. She's got a wild future ahead. Nora nodded, forcing a smile. Yeah, that's the goal. Still, when she approached the enclosure that evening, her chest ached. Willow was perched on a branch, watching her with that same calm, intelligent gaze. Nora leaned against the fence. Tomorrow's the big day, huh? The bobcat tilted her head, ears twitching. Nora smiled sadly. You'll be free, sweetheart. Just promise me you'll stay safe out there. Willow blinked slowly, a gesture that, to anyone else, meant nothing. But to Nora, it was enough. The next morning dawned pale and cold, the kind of early spring chill that seeps through flannel and memory alike. Nora loaded the transport crate carefully into the back of her truck. Inside, Willow crouched low but calm, her golden eyes scanning the morning light that spilled across the gravel lot. The drive out to the release site took an hour, winding roads through the Bitterroot Mountains. Snow melting in rivulets along the ditches. Nora barely spoke during the drive. The rhythmic hum of the tires was the only sound, mingling with the steady thump of her heart. She pulled to a stop near a clearing by the river, quiet, open, and alive with the first signs of spring. Pines towered around them like sentinels. A magpie swooped overhead. The air smelled of thawed earth and pine sap. This is it, kid, she whispered, setting the crate gently on the ground. Dr. Ruiz and a wildlife officer named Ben had followed in a separate vehicle. They approached quietly, nodding at Nora. You ready? Ben asked. Nora exhaled, crouching beside the crate. As I'll ever be. The latch clicked. The door swung open. For a long moment, nothing happened. Willow stayed inside, ears swiveling, nose twitching at the unfamiliar sense of freedom. Then, in one fluid motion, she stepped out. Her paws sank into soft earth. The breeze ruffled her fur. She took a few tentative steps, then turned her head, just once, to look back at the humans who had nursed her through the edge of death. Nora froze, heart hammering. The bobcat's gaze locked with hers, steady, calm, unafraid. And in that fleeting glance, Nora saw everything: the mother's courage, the pain of loss, the spark of survival passed down through blood and will. Then Willow turned and bounded into the forest. She vanished between the trees like mist dissolving in sunlight. Wild, silent, and utterly free. No one spoke for a long time. The wind moved through the branches, carrying with it the faintest echo of a chirp, the same soft sound Nora had heard that first night in the rain. She's home, Dr. Ruiz murmured. Nora nodded, swallowing hard. Yeah, she's home. They packed up in silence. But before Nora climbed back into the truck, she turned toward the tree line one last time. Thank you, she whispered. It wasn't clear who she was speaking to, the kitten, the mother who'd sacrificed everything, or the wild itself. Maybe all three. Weeks later, Nora was back at the rehab center, finishing evening rounds, when her radio crackled to life. Hey Nora, came Ben's voice. You'll want to see this. Trail cam on Site 4, just pulled the footage. A few minutes later, he sent it to her phone. The screen showed a night scene, pale from infrared. A deer paused near the riverbank, ears flicking nervously. Then, emerging from the brush, came a sleek young bobcat with a faint cloudiness in one eye. She moved confidently, pausing to scent the air before fading back into the darkness. Nora smiled through tears she hadn't realized were falling. That's my girl, she whispered. She saved the image, printed it later, and hung it by her desk. A reminder that some goodbyes aren't endings. They're beginnings in disguise. And somewhere, beneath the starlit Montana sky, a once orphaned bobcat named Willow prowled her own territory, a living, breathing testament to a mother's sacrifice, a rescuer's compassion, and the quiet power of second chances.